Brahmananda Parama Sukhada Kevala Jnanamurti Dandvatitam Gagana Satrisham Tatvama Sayadhi Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhuta Bhavatita Triguna Rahitam Sadguru Tam Namami Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, great gurus, masters and saints of all ages and all religions, we humbly bow to you all. Thank you for raising the vibration of this class. Thank you for connecting us to God. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So good evening all. And where were we? We were at page 232, na? 233. Where exactly?
Start from second paragraph.
The nerves. Okay. The nerves are the main passages of life force in the body. They correspond to the subtler, more refined nadis in the astral body. So on the physical body, we have the nerves, the nervous system, and on the astral body, to correspond to that, we have the system of nadis. Apparently, we have about 72,000 nadis, that is energy channels, which are moving across the body on the astral body. But on the physical body, the nerve passages of the human body are clogged with toxins owing to wrong diet and are impaired in their functioning by unnatural living. Because man seeks stimulation from outside himself, instead of drawing on his inner spiritual resources, he vitiates the nerves, which grow tired and become diminishingly responsive to the very things people look to for stimulation. So normally what happens, why is our physical body, why does it feel sluggish? It is because of the kind of food we eat. We don't eat the proper food, the kind of lifestyle that we have. So that kind of clogs the physical nerves. The astral nerves are, of course, fed by our energies, which is our thought energies, our emotional energies. So if we took more care of the astral body, the astral nadis, the energy channels, then our health would be much better. You know, whatever we eat, we would also digest well. Our minds would remain active, and our emotions would be calmer. So that, you know, it takes care of a lot of the wear and tear on the physical body because of our physical existence. Now, because man seeks stimulation from outside himself instead of drawing on his inner spiritual resources. What is the inner spiritual resources? It's basically the yogic practices which bring up the energy in the astral spine and therefore clear the energy channels or the nadis. So it's a way of going inward. So instead of going inward, if we are always outwardly directed, then, you know, we are looking for stimulation outside, all manner of distractions, all manner of things that we do and things that we indulge in, food and drink. So those start to deaden the nerves, and we somehow need more and more. You would see it with alcohol. Whatever used to give you a kick in one glass, now you need a whole bottle, you see. So the nerves start getting clogged and deadened, and then you need more and more of that same toxic substance to give you the feeling that you were looking for in the ordinary sense, right? An outward flow of energy soon becomes habitual, resisting meditative efforts to relax by withdrawing into the self. So the more we focus on things which are outside, the more they tend to draw us away. And so it becomes, so our minds become restless. We are, if you might say, overstimulated. Too many things are hitting us from all angles, and we don't have an internal life. So we lose our calmness, and meditation becomes more and more difficult. Yogis therefore advise purifying the nerves by proper diet, yoga asanas or postures, and the practice of yoga meditation techniques, among which Kriya Yoga is preeminent. So yogis say, because we are in the world and there are so many pulls from outside, it is always good to look after ourselves by the food that we eat, the lifestyle that we have, and the asanas or the yoga postures also move the energy in the astral body, as well, of course, the meditative practices. Asanas, mudras are asanas combined with special awareness of the flow of certain inner energies. So when we sit like this, or when we sit like this, there are so many mudras. These are actually stimulating nerve channels in the nadis, astral channels. So every mudra is very, very scientific and well thought out. So there are different mudras for different reasons. So asanas, mudras, pranayams. Pranayams are the breathing techniques. Yeah.
When we do Kriya Yoga, we don't do asana, we keep our palms straight.
But we have Jyoti Mudra, we have Maha Mudra. Those are the mudras that we practice. Even while doing the Om technique, this is a mudra actually, the way we are blocking our senses. So we do mudras in that way. Asanas, mudras, pranayams, devotional chanting for the very use of the voice in self-offering to God can assist an upward flow of energy. Of course, prayers, which apart from appealing to God for an answer, help to focus one's own thoughts and feelings. So all these things help us in moving our energies Godward. Using consciousness and energy to penetrate through the spinal chakras, concentration on the infinite, and the deep self-offering of heartfelt devotion. All these help to purify the heart's feeling and the nervous system, making one fully receptive to divine inspiration, right? So what do we mean by opening the heart? The heart has many, many receptors. The receptors in the heart are actually 5,000 more powerful than the ones in the brain. So if we can concentrate on our heart instead of in the brain, the benefit to us is far, far greater. So these days, there's a lot of, talk on heart and brain coherence. If you manage to do that, the benefits are enormous. You really change as a person. Okay, because actually the heart is many, many thousand times powerful than the brain. But we usually use the brain or the intellect. So all these asanas, mudras, pranayams, prayers, chanting, all of these things help to purify the heart's feeling and the nervous system.
Urmi, I have a small question on this. So you
Yeah.
say that use your heart and you need to use less of your mind, and more of your heart. But here in the corporate world, we are taught opposite. We have to use our mind and we have to absolutely block our hearts or stop using it. So they say that there is no place for your heart here. You have to use your mind.
Yeah, so
And that's
that's
what
why
we've been
people
taught.
die of heart attacks. And that is why instead of cooperation, there is competition. That is why there is politics in the office. So in the long run, it is not okay. So in our corporate program, what are we doing? We are teaching people meditation. That is, to bring in the heart's feeling, to see what is the new way of thinking in the energy age or the Dwapar Yug. It is no longer possible to run organizations with your left brain. You have to activate your right brain for creative out of the box solutions because it's not working. So we have to, what are we trying to teach corporate bosses? Very, very tough uphill task, but that is where we are moving. We are telling people, bring up your feminine qualities. If you don't bring up the receptive qualities, the way you are doing business, it is a struggle. It is, dog eat dog or whatever eats whatever, everyone stepping over. It's cutthroat competition and it just kills everything. It kills creative solution. It kills also the amount of profit that you would make if you went according to the heart oriented way of management. Okay, so that is what we have a program which is called Success Dharma, which is exactly that, telling people that what you have been taught all this while is not working. It is divisive. It is not inclusive. It creates, enmities. It creates stress. It creates heart attacks. And it creates less money than you would make if you would move with the openness and, the willingness to share. Today's, what is today's this thing? I have to win at the cost of somebody else. So what is a heart-oriented policy is it should be a win-win. Just because I am winning doesn't mean everybody else has to lose. So that is not the dharmic way. That ultimately will shrink our spirits, will shrink our souls, right? Our soul. That is where we are moving towards precisely. It's very, very needed in today's day and age to shift that corporate stance.
Thank you.
The God-united yogi, relinquishing attachment to the fruits of action, attains unshakable inner peace. So what does the yogi think? The yogi is always in his witness consciousness. He does not personalize everything. He does not say, this is my body. If the body is hungry or the body is hurt, he will say, the body is hurt. He will not say, I am hurt, because he knows very well that he is not the body. He is only occupying this body in this lifetime. He has occupied many bodies across many lifetimes, but fundamentally he is the soul. So he does not identify with the body. So the God, if you are a person who is constantly connected to source, you will stop acting out of the ego. You will stop taking everything personally. You will stop being attached to the results all the time. You will do what you need to do, and you will have complete faith that things will work out. And even if apparently they don't work out, you will know that this is because there is a lesson in it for me. Nothing doesn't work out. It all works out. There is an absolute divine plan behind even every disaster that we face. For our own soul's growth, we need to learn something from it. So the God-united yogi, relinquishing attachment to the fruits of action, attains unshakable inner peace. So if you're not worried about what is going to happen tomorrow, whether you're going to so-called win or lose, whether something will work out the way you want, can you imagine the kind of inner peace? You will have 100% of your energies present in the now. Normally, what do we do? 50% is in the past, 50% is in the future. Nothing is here. And so we don't have enough energy to put into our work or whatever we are doing, into our relationships. Either we are carrying past baggage, or we have raced ahead into the future with worry and all kinds of expectations and things like that. And we forget to enjoy the present moment. And so we don't know how to live fully. So that person, however, who does not direct his energies upward towards union with God is ruled by desire. Attached to the fruits of action, he lives in perpetual bondage. So if you are not spiritually awake, then what do? We get attached to everything in the world. We have so many desires, and we are attached to the fruits. We want that desire to manifest. And if it doesn't manifest, then we are very discontented. Then we are no longer, we cannot connect to God. We can only connect to the ego, and we are full of complaints that why didn't I get this? Why is life like this for me? Right? Instead of having faith that whatever is happening for the best. And if we have that kind of attitude, the kind of energy that you will release in your being, the kind of powers that you will have, and the kind of joy that you will experience is quite phenomenal. Because we don't allow our energies to be drained by, why am I not getting this and why am I not getting that? And funnily enough, when we release the attachment to the result, that very thing comes pouring on at us. This is the contradiction of the universe. The moment you let go, everything will flow to you. Till the time you are holding on, that very holding on, that worry, that energy is going to block things coming to you. Very difficult, but worth remembering. You will see the moment you let go, everything will come to you. And if there is attachment that I must have this amount of money, and I must have this relationship, and I must have that thing and that house and this, whatever, the moment you have that, I must have, that by itself is going to block it. The secret to divine freedom, this is a thought worthwhile to repeat again and again, is to renounce ego motivation. So yeah, what are we saying all the time? Please remember that you are not this body. You are not this personality. You are actually God, which comes into over lifetimes into different bodies. So not to get attached to this life and to this body, because there have been so many millions and so many millions still to come. So that when we realize that and we start to live that, then we attain divine freedom. So to renounce ego motivation, a person has no choice but to act, whether outwardly or inwardly, with his thoughts and subtle energies. He must, in any case, however, neutralize the vrittis or eddies that draw the consequences of every act back to himself with the thought, I did it, it is mine. Basically, it is saying if you act out of personal motivation, you are bound to get karma, and you will keep getting caught in the cycle of death and rebirth and death and rebirth. You will not be able to escape this cycle. So what is the definition of yoga? Yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the stilling of the whirlpools of feeling, all those things. So vrittis is the vortices in the chakras. It's the whirlpool where, because of our desires, because of our attachments, we get stuck. And these things keep moving in our astral spine, and we keep repeating ad infinitum the same patterns. Whatever we are carrying from past lives, if we don't get out of this, we keep repeating the same lessons again and again. So one way to cut this out is to have a yoga practice, because with every meditation, what are we doing? We are releasing these very eddies, these very vrittis or the whirlpools, where our karmic seeds are constantly spinning. So the more we meditate, the more we release our karmic baggage. Okay. And the more we meditate slowly, we start to realize, because our upper chakras are activated, we stop getting caught in that feeling of I, me, and mine. So the ego expands, our consciousness expands to take in a higher reality. So that is what is the meaning of having an expanded consciousness, that you can understand the bigger picture. And therefore, whatever is happening day to day, it does not affect you negatively anymore. You can start laughing at it, and you can move smoothly through life, knowing that this is just one life in many, many thousands to come. And it is a continuous journey. When once the embodied soul has controlled the senses, the mental and mentally releasing every attachment to activity, remains blissful and secure in the city of 9 gates. He himself no longer acts, nor does he impose action on others or on his outer senses. So what is Krishna doing in the Mahabharata? He is controlling the senses, the 5 senses, the 5 horses that he is reigning in. So once we are able to, bring our senses under control, then we are in command of our lives. We don't get pulled in 10 different directions. We don't get triggered with everything that is being said. Okay. And so we release also all attachment to our activity. We take action because it is there, but we are not unduly attached to the results of that action. We take action. Why? I have explained it before. We have signed up to learn through experience. If we don't take action, then we don't create consequences. If we don't create consequences, then we don't learn through consequences. We might as well be a vegetable. But even the very act of breathing is an action. So just by being present in this world, we are bound to act. So action we have to do, but we don't need to get so attached to it. We do the best we can and we move on. Okay. So a yogi, when he has controlled his senses, when he has given up attachment to the results of his action, he no longer acts. So what happens when masters like Yogananda come to earth? They are acting, but they are acting from such a high perspective. They are acting from the point of view of source. That kind of action does not accrue karma. It is completely neutral because it is not personal. Masters are not personal people. They are absolutely impersonal. They are simply here to do a job, which they do, and they leave. They do all the actions which everybody else is doing, but through every action, they teach others. And they don't, they are always acting from source. So they don't own those actions. It is God acting through them. And as a result, that action does not get any karma. So that kind of yogi no longer acts, nor does he impose action on others. So he allows everybody else, knowing full well that everybody has their own God particle, shall we say, inside them. So he doesn't try to force or control somebody else. He allows everybody to move on their journey and to learn at their pace in their own way. It is notable to how great an extent these slokas treat not of the outer, but of the inner world, which is populated by thoughts, attitudes, qualities of the meditating yogi. The very symbolism of the Mahabharata, emphasized from the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, relates to the inner man, to his population of millions of thoughts and tendencies. So the Mahabharata, as we have spoken of before, is an allegory. So the battlefield of Kurukshetra is actually the human spine. And the energy which is moving downwards towards the lower chakras are our negative tendencies. And the energy which is moving upwards towards our higher chakras are our positive tendencies. So the entire battle of Kurukshetra is being played out in the spine. You can take the Mahabharata at any level. You can take it as a story. You can see the deeper meanings. And it is very interesting that according to Yogananda's explanation of the Gita and Mahabharata, every Mahabharata character embodies a quality of the chakras. So I will explain some of the characters, the positive and the negative pole. I'll just, I have it on my phone. 1 minute. I'm sending it to someone. So this is Yogananda's explanation of the Mahabharata characters. So he starts from the third eye or the spiritual eye. He says, first of all, the spine is the battlefield between our negative and positive qualities. The third eye chakra or the spiritual I or the Kutastha Chaitanya, this represents the still presence of God within man. We all have the God particle, if you like to say. This is our connection to the divine. This is represented in the Mahabharata by Lord Krishna. Krishna only cares about whether something is going to make people evolve or not, independent of moral prescriptions of society. So Krishna, because he's seeing the bigger picture, he is only concerned in the Mahabharata that whether something is going to lead to the evolution of a person. So he is the one character who breaks all the rules in Mahabharata. He will take instant action, what is required at that time. Why? Because he knows social moral codes can always change from age to age. They are temporary, but the truth remains the truth. So he comes from the higher truths. So all the things that throughout, see, usually people say, oh, war is bad, we shouldn't kill. Krishna is the only one through the Mahabharata who is encouraging war. Why? Because he knows that we have to kill our negative tendencies. There is no question of, pampering them and letting them grow and more problem. Okay. So Krishna represents this. And also when Draupadi was being disrespected in the court of Duryodhana, if you know the story of Mahabharata, she is running. She has 5 husbands. Nobody is lifting a finger to even protect her. She is running to each and every senior member in the court. She's running to Drona. She's running to Bhishma. She is telling them, please save me from the Kauravas. And all they can do is to quote the scriptures at her, that this is how a wife should behave, and this is how a husband should behave, and this is how they are constantly quoting the scriptures. So finally, she has to turn to God. She has to pray to Krishna that save me. Nobody here is even standing up for my honor. The moment she does that, Krishna immediately performs a miracle to save her. So he does not go by moral precepts. He will take the action that is required right then. And therefore, he represents the spiritual eye or the third eye, which can see everything and, doesn't get lost in the trees and loses sight of the woods. Krishna is coming from ultimate truth, that if somebody is being insulted, then that person needs to be helped, full stop. Stop giving me, scriptural quotes of why this is wrong and why this is right and all those things. So that is the positive pole of the, now every chakra has negative tendencies as well as positive tendencies. When the chakra is balanced, then it will exhibit the positive tendencies. If that same chakra has too little energy or too much energy, then it is going to express the negative qualities of the same chakra. So Krishna is pragmatic, he is a visionary, he comes up with authentic solutions, and he is committed to Swadharma. What is your dharma? Stop minding other people's business. What is true for you? Can you remain connected to your core, and can you act from that? Okay. So the negative pole of the spiritual eye is the medulla. So that in the Mahabharata is represented by Bhishma. Bhishma represents the ego. So he is the grandsire of the Pandavas and the Kauravas. He is one of the senior respected characters in the Mahabharata. But Bhishma, this is the medulla. He represents the ego. And the ego in Bhishma prevents him from seeing the world as it really is. His main thing was, I am so selfless that whatever I say has to be right. He had this attitude, okay? He was obsessed with his vows. Even if the vows are not working, because he has vowed something some 30 years ago, he hangs on to it because he has the ego. I have said it and it must be so. And that creates a lot of chaos in the Mahabharata, okay? And he has this habit of taking too much responsibility, doing other people's work instead of allowing them to grow on their own. And he, inside him, he has this conflict. Physically, he's supporting the Kauravas. Mentally, he actually is siding with the Pandavas. So there is a lack of integrity in this grandsire. Okay, so he represents the ego. The negative pole of the spiritual eye in the Mahabharata is also represented by Drona. Drona is habit. So what really kills us is actually we are creatures of habit. We are constantly reacting from past experience. We don't remain in the now and take a fresh perspective. We are so bogged down by our past that we are creatures of habit. We keep repeating the same patterns, making the same mistakes. So Drona is the teacher of both the Pandavas and the Kauravas. He has taught them warfare, but he represents habit, and therefore he also represents the ego. So he was a teacher with an agenda. He is a mercenary. He taught the Pandavas and Kauravas only the skills of warfare, but he did not tell them the purpose behind it as a true teacher should. So just learn how to use these weapons, but he hasn't taught them the ethics or what is dharmic in warfare and why you should go to war and when you should refrain from war. All those things he hasn't taught them. He is motivated by revenge because somebody insulted him a long time ago and he says, my students will be so strong that they will go and kill Drupad, who had insulted him. Okay. So long time ago, he's holding on to stuff. Then the third person who represents the ego in the Mahabharata is Kripa. So Kripa is also a character. I'm not getting into that story, but he represents avidya, judgments on God's Maya. He keeps criticizing, saying this world of illusion is not okay. This is why we get into trouble. He doesn't understand why Maya is there for the purpose of our evolution. Okay. So the next chakra is the throat chakra. From the third eye, then comes the throat. Now, the positive aspect of the throat chakra is represented by Yudhishthir. Yudhishthira is the eldest brother of the Pandavas. So what does Yudhishthir mean? Somebody who is calm in battle, psychological calm. So in Yuddha or during battle, he is sthir, he is calm. But this is not your regular physical battle, it is your psychological battle, okay? Calmness in psychological battle. He embodies Jaya versus Vijaya. What is Jaya? Jaya means internal victory. What is Vijaya? Vijaya means external victory. So Arjuna represents Vijaya and Yudhishthir represents Jaya, which is victory over our inner self. So he is the ethical hero. He is one person who continuously works on himself and grows spiritually. Throughout the Mahabharata, this is one character who is growing and changing and growing and changing. And he is in tune with the vibration of truth, which truth is actually, this is authenticity, chakra of authenticity. So this is the positive pole which is
So,
represented.
Urmi, just tell me now, what did you say about Jaya and Vijaya? Jaya is about the
Is
internal,
internal victory,
and Vijaya is
is
over.
external.
Okay.
You are, killing an enemy which is outside.
So
Internal,
Arjuna
your battle
represents
is here.
Arjuna represents Vijaya.
Vijaya. Because he's the army chief, he's the army commander, he can run around killing all those. But Yudhishthir is the one person who is constantly working on himself and growing as a person. So he represents Jaya, which is internal. Huh? Arjuna. Okay. So the negative pole of the throat chakra is represented by Shalya, which is pride. Okay. Now comes the heart chakra, the Anahata. This is represented by Bhima. Bhima is the huge Pandava. He represents the heart chakra, which is control over the life force, the prana. So that is the role of Bhima. He is the soul guided life force. He leads the spiritual army and is the principal enemy of the ego or Bhishma. Ultimately, Bhima kills Bhishma. So he is the direct enemy of ego because he is representing the heart chakra, control over life force. The negative pole of the heart chakra is represented by Shakuni, who is the worst villain in the Mahabharata. He represents attachment to Maya. So the soul now comes after the heart chakra is the solar plexus chakra. Okay. Now, this is represented by Arjuna, which is fiery self-control. The eternal devotee or the disciple. He always asks Krishna what he should do. And he is always, wanting to learn, wanting to grow. So he is the eternal devotee or disciple. He is the chief army commander. In the solar plexus chakra, because it is the third chakra among the lower chakras, it is the topmost, just before the heart, the ego is still present in Arjun. It is the upper chakras where the ego starts to go off. But in the lower chakras, he still has the ego and it has to collapse. And that is what the whole story of the Gita is, the collapse of the ego, right? And he surrenders to Krishna's guidance unconditionally. And at the end of the Gita, he finally understands what it means to drop the ego. So he achieves that Atma Jnana at the end of the Gita. Atma Jnana means self-realization, understanding who I really am, that I am God. So finally he understands. The negative pole of the solar plexus is represented by Karna. He represents attachment to material actions, and Vikarna, which is repulsion to unpleasantness. Now, these are all different stories in the Mahabharata. So most of us are familiar, at least vaguely familiar with the story. So I'm not going into it, but the point is Yogananda explained the Mahabharata in terms of the astral spine, how all the characters represent certain qualities of the chakras. So
Urmi,
now
sorry,
comes the
one second,
sacral.
one second. Karna
Now
is
comes the
repulsion.
sacral chakra. So sacral chakra is represented by Sahadev. These are the two twins, Sahadev and Nakul, the last brothers of the 5 Pandavas. Sahadev is the power to resist evil. It can be linked to Patanjali's yamas. So Sahadev is connected to the yamas, which is non-violence, non-lying, non-stealing, non-sensuality, non-greed. Sahadev has many godly qualities. He's most intelligent. He's an expert strategist, very eloquent, great warrior, principled, dedicated, and obedient. His twin brother, which is Nakula, represents the negative, that is the root chakra. Let me talk about the negative pole of the sacral chakra is represented by Dushashan, that is Duryodhana's brother. He represents anger, and Jayadratha, who represents fear of death. Now, the last chakra, the root chakra, is the positive qualities are represented by Nakula, Sahadev's twin, the last of the Pandava brothers. Nakula is the power to adhere to good rules. Sahadev is the power to resist evil. Nakula is slightly less powerful. He can adhere to rules which you have laid down. But if evil comes, we don't know what will happen, but he can adhere to good rules. And this can be linked to Patanjali's niyamas, which is cleanliness, contentment, austerity, self-study, and devotion. His state is one of intellectual, reason-guided inner absorption. So, and he has 4 superpowers and all that. And the negative pole of the root chakra is represented by Duryodhana, the biggest core of evil brother, right? If we can say there is evil and good. So Duryodhana, he simply represents material desire. Okay. So this is how Yogananda explains all the Mahabharata characters according to the astral spine, and all the characters can be seen in terms of the different chakras. And if you go through the Mahabharata, it is extremely interesting how each event is laid out one after the other right until the end of that huge epic, and you will see the soul's evolution through that entire story if we choose to study it from that perspective. So the very symbolism of the Mahabharata emphasized from the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita relates to the inner man, to his population of millions of thoughts and tendencies. This last stanza might easily be taken to mean that the yogi who is completely true to himself will never impose his will on other human beings. Certainly, this is the outward superficial meaning of this stanza. How we behave outwardly, however, is only a reflection of what we are in ourselves. The Gita is dealing primarily with inner causes. Its assumption is that outwardly sattvic activity depends on inner sattvic attitudes. So the Gita places importance on what is your intention. Why are you doing what you are doing? Outwardly, your actions may seem very, very holy. Say you pray, you go to the temple every day and you're offering flowers and your whatever, you give huge donations to the temple. But your motivation is to be seen as holy, right? What is your inner motivation? Your motivation is to quieten some guilt which you have, because otherwise you do a lot of unethical things. So that the Gita is placing emphasis on what are your motivations, what are you inside, rather than what you are displaying outside. People who try to impose peaceful, harmonious behavior in the world without first changing themselves have grasped the wrong end of the firebrand they flourish. So stop minding other people's business. Our first task is to how can we change ourselves? How can we focus in here? The rest of the world will fall into place. We don't need to go around saving the world. What is it that will enable us to change? Nevertheless, it is also true and is a point never overlooked in the Bhagavad Gita that outward right behavior does help to focus the mind inwardly on right attitudes. So, well, it's not that we should just do away with outward good behavior. Because for people who are not really connected inside, this actually starts guiding their thoughts towards inner purification. So that is also useful. The city of nine gates is, of course, a reference to the body with its two eyes, two nostrils, two ears, two organs of excretion, and the mouth. The yogi who has renounced ego consciousness dwells securely at perpetual rest within the city of his body. No enemy can attack him, for his energy, like the limbs of a tortoise, has been withdrawn into the self, that is the higher self. He is no longer the body, but has become like a certain yogi who, saddled with a nagging wife, told my guru when he was a young boy, she doesn't know it, but I've escaped her. The I she thinks I am is no longer there to be nagged. So the yogi has withdrawn everything and has its own inner world. So not too bothered about what is going on outside. He is only interested in his inner growth. It is not God, the sovereign self, who creates in mankind the consciousness of acting in this world. God neither causes people to act nor entangles them in the karmic consequences of their actions. It is Maya, the cosmic illusion, which acts through them. So we go back to the old story of God manifests himself into creation. He's not a creator, he's not separate from his creation. He is present in every bit of his creation. But as the energy came down, up is not there, but just to understand in a linear world, as the energy separated from source and went further and further away from source, what is happening? The vibration is becoming lower and lower and lower, and so giving rise to physical objects and people and all these things that happen. And now this is therefore the world of illusion, the truth being the source. We actually, all this body, this world, and all these things are just a stage which has been created so that we can play out our dramas, and through that drama understand who we really are and move back to our God natures. So God is neither causing people to act nor entangling them in the karmic consequences of their actions. It is the cosmic illusion which acts through them. What is the cosmic illusion? It is good, bad, white, black, happiness, sadness. This is the biggest illusion, the duality versus the unity. So the moment we step into duality, we are now torn here and torn there and creating karma and basically creating messes. The moment we start to judge and we cannot remain neutral, that is when karma will begin. So I won't go further than this because there is only 4 minutes left. If there is any questions, you can ask, otherwise we can end.
Urmi, can you explain the astral and the casual world, causal world in detail, because there is a reference of this and in the book.
Right. So in a very, very simple sense, we are made up of 3 sheets or 3 bodies. First is the physical, which we can see. Next is the astral, which is our world of emotions, all our feelings, energy body. You can't deny the thing of that we have that. No, we can't see the emotions, but we can certainly feel them and they are very, very real. The causal world is the thought body. So as you go deeper, because thoughts are things, it all starts from a thought. If we keep thinking something, we are activating the causal body, the cause of everything. The moment through our thought, we have judged something as good or bad, we have set into motion a huge thing. Okay, so if we judge a thing as bad, then what is happening in the brain is starting to release harmful chemicals into the body and jamming the chakras, which is in the astral body, right? Now, which makes us feel certain emotions. A thought is a thought. It's up to me whether I think that is good or bad, right? So nobody is asking me to judge. Because I am in the world of duality, in this illusion, we always label things. Things are as they are. They are neither good nor bad. It is our attitude that creates that. Now, the moment I have judged something bad, if it's good, fine. Body is absorbing in good. If I have judged something negatively, it is starting to release harmful hormones into the body, which is first attacking the energy body, because now our emotions have started to get triggered. We are becoming sad, or we are becoming shameful, or we are becoming angry, and the chakras are getting blocked. If that doesn't clear soon enough, then it will show itself as physical disease. So these are the three basic bodies: the causal body, the astral body, and the physical body.
Thank you.
Anything else? Champa, are you saying something? No. Okay. So we'll end today and see you next week then. We'll
Thank
end
you.
with a prayer, and please chant Om with me 3 times. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing power in all bodies, minds, and souls. So let's rub our hands together, bring up the energy, and send the energy to the world and chant Om 3 times. Shanti, Shanti. So see you next week.
Thank
And
you.
Kriya Bans may stay back.